"Can I play for food?" They laughed at the hungry girl, not knowing she's a piano. Prodigy gold light spills from a crystal chandelier, casting ripples across polished marble floors. The hotel's grand ballroom hums with murmured conversations, and the muted clink of champagne glasses as a string quartet drifts through an elegant waltz. At the far edge of this opulence stands a girl no taller than the piano bench itself. 12-year-old Lena Carter grips a frayed backpack to her chest, her dark eyes fixed on the glossy concert grand near the stage. The scent of roasted lamb and truffle oil drifts past, but her stomach stays hollow. Without warning, she steps forward, voice steady but thin. "May I play for food?" The question cuts through crystal laughter like a wrong note. Glasses pause, mid-air. Chairs creak. Some guests smirk, others glance away, unsure whether to pity or dismiss her. A figure glides from the crowd. Cynthia Davenport, chairwoman of the gala, gown shimmering like liquid silver. Her smile looks warm yet feels sharp, a blade hidden under velvet. "This is a private event," she says smoothly, though her eyes flick with annoyance. Lena does not move. Her fingers tighten on the strap of her bag, but her chin lifts a fraction higher. In a room built for polished performances, the uninvited child becomes the performance no one expected, and no one can yet predict how it will end. Rain slides down a cracked shelter window, blurring the city lights into streaks of gold and gray. Inside, Lena Carter huddles beside a thin mattress, while her grandmother Evelyn Carter unwraps 2 stale rolls from a paper bag. Dinner will not be enough, but the girl accepts it without complaint. Across the room stands an upright piano with chipped ivory keys and a missing pedal. Even here, amid peeling paint and humming radiators, it glows like a secret doorway. Evelyn sets the bread aside and opens a worn folder of sheet music, edges curled from years of use. 5 minutes of scales before we eat, she says softly. Her hands tremble with age, yet still demonstrate perfect posture as she lifts her own fingers over an invisible keyboard. The old woman never raises her voice. She teaches with patience, every instruction wrapped in a story about a composer who refused to give up. Lena listens, as if each note were a promise that life can sound different than it looks. Long before she could read books, Lena could read notation. She hears a melody once, and it stays. Her pitch is exact, her rhythm unshakable. On nights when the shelter is noisy with arguments or police sirens outside, she imagines herself on a stage where no one interrupts, where every sound belongs to her. The cracked piano becomes a grand Steinway in her mind, its chipped keys transformed into polished ivory under warm stage lights. Evelyn nurtures more than technique. She tells Lena that music can speak when words cannot, that every phrase carries emotion older than the player. "You must let the piece breathe," she whispers, guiding the girl's small hands through a Beethoven passage. "Listen to what it wants to say." Each evening ends with a lullaby played on the damaged instrument, echoing across the shelter. Like a prayer no one else understands. Not everyone hears the same promise. At a local church recital, Lena once waited in line behind students in satin dresses and shiny shoes. When her turn came, a volunteer whispered that the program was full. Later, she overheard 2 parents mutter that this kind of thing was not for girls like her. She did not cry, she memorized their tone. It became fuel in her fingers, sharpening her touch on the keys. Another time, a small community center opened its doors for a weekend concert. The upright piano there was missing even more keys than the shelters, but Lena played anyway. In the back row sat a man she had never seen before, tall, salt and pepper, hair, notebook balanced on his knee. Dr. Marcus Hale, a respected critic known for discovering young talent, leaned forward as the girl moved from Chopin to a piece of her own invention. He wrote nothing at first, only listened, his brow furrowing at the control and phrasing emerging from such small hands. When the applause came, polite but brief, Lena slipped off the bench before anyone could question who she was or where she came from. Marcus closed his notebook slowly, eyes following the child as she disappeared through the side door. He would later describe the moment to a colleague as hearing a whisper from the future. For now, he remained a silent witness, unsure how to reach her without frightening her away. The nights kept coming. Shelter to shelter, bus to bus, Lena carried her backpack of scores like a passport to a different country. Evelyn's health weakened, but her teaching never faltered. Even on days when she could not leave bed, she tapped rhythms on the sheet to show her granddaughter where the accents fell. They had little else, no savings, no stable address. Yet the music became a spine holding both of them upright. As Lena grew, so did her resolve. She began to close her eyes while practicing, visualizing not just concert halls, but the faces of people who doubted her. She played louder, then softer, shaping phrases like arguments and replies. When she opened her eyes again, she was still in the shelter, but the sound lingering in the air was something no poverty could erase. Evelyn often warned, "The world will not see you first as an artist. It will see you as a child without money." Lena nodded, but kept practicing. She started memorizing entire sonatas to avoid carrying books that might get lost. She learned to block out snide comments and to measure herself only against the music itself. This part of her life never appears in the glossy programs of galas. Guests at charity events do not see the nights she went hungry or the mornings she practiced scales with frozen fingers. They will see only the moment she steps to a grand piano in their world. What they will not expect is how many nights of hunger are hidden in each perfect chord. Dr. Marcus Hale remembers her face from that community center. He has been invited to tonight's hotel gala as a guest judge for the scholarship committee. He does not know yet that the girl standing by the stage is the same child whose music once made him stop breathing for a beat. She does not know he is there either. In a few minutes, the two worlds, marble floors and cracked keys, will collide under a chandelier's light. Golden light spills across the ballroom floor as the auctioneer lowers his gavel and music fades to silence. In the hush, Cynthia Davenport glides forward with the poise of someone who believes every eye belongs to her. A diamond bracelet glints at her wrist as she gestures toward Lena. "Very well, young lady," she announces, voice sugar-coated but sharp at the edges. "If you truly think you can earn your supper, let us make it memorable." She sweeps a hand toward the grand piano, its black lacquer reflecting chandeliers like a mirror. A ripple of anticipation courses through the crowd. Some whisper excitedly, delighted by the novelty. Others frown, sensing something cruel hiding beneath Cynthia's polished tone. Photographers raise their cameras. Wine glasses pause halfway to painted lips. Cynthia leans in, lowering her voice just enough to make Lena strain to hear. "Beethoven," she says, drawing out the syllables. "Not the easy part. Play the third variation of Für Elise. You know it?" The words land, like a gauntlet thrown on marble. Lena's fingers tighten around the frayed strap of her backpack. Her throat feels too small for air. She knows the piece. She memorized it months ago on a cracked keyboard in a shelter basement. But the variation is vicious, full of runs that slip like water over stone. A mistake in front of these people would mean ridicule echoing through the ballroom. Cynthia straightens and addresses the audience again. "If she can do it, ladies and gentlemen, the Carter child will receive a proper dinner." A thin smile follows. "If she cannot, well, perhaps she should leave us to our evening." Several guests exchange uneasy looks. A man in a tuxedo murmurs to his wife, "This is entertainment?" Another guest stifles a laugh, eager for drama. The tension becomes almost visible, like a thread pulled taut across the room. The grand piano waits under a spotlight. Lena takes a step, then another, shoes scuffing softly on polished floor. Her heartbeat thuds against her ribs. In her mind, she hears Evelyn's steady voice from countless nights at the community piano. Music speaks when words cannot. Trust it. It will never betray you. Halfway to the bench, she hesitates. Her reflection stares back from the instrument's gleaming lid, a small girl with big eyes and a borrowed dress too thin for the air-conditioned chill. She remembers the recital where a volunteer whispered, "This is not for you," and how she had walked home clutching sheet music like contraband. She looks up, cameras flash. The room tilts slightly. She closes her eyes just long enough to inhale. 1 breath. 2. I am not small, she tells herself. I am sound. She slides onto the bench. The keys gleam like rows of teeth. Her hands hover, trembling. In the front row, a tall man with a notebook, Dr. Marcus Hale, watches with a frown of concern. He had heard her once before at the community center. He had not expected to see her here. His pen taps silently against his knee. "Whenever you are ready," Cynthia purrs. Lena places her fingers on the opening notes. A single phrase floats out, tentative but clear. She senses the audience lean forward. Another phrase, quicker, the melody weaving like a silver thread. She can almost feel Evelyn's warm hands guiding hers across the keys. Cynthia crosses her arms, expecting a stumble. The third variation begins. The runs leap and tumble. Lena's pulse hammers, but her memory is steady. Every note is a rung on a ladder she built in secret nights. She climbs it now without looking down. At first, the crowd murmurs. Then the murmurs fade. The music surges, filling corners of the ballroom untouched by conversation. Guests who moments ago smirked now glance at each other, unsettled. A woman lowers her phone. A waiter stops pouring champagne. Lena does not see any of it. She sees instead the shelter's cracked ceiling, the dim bulb swinging above the battered piano, Evelyn's soft smile at the end of each practice session. She lets that memory pour into the keys until the bright chandeliers seem far away. The final run arrives, the most treacherous. Her left hand anchors the rhythm while the right leaps. For an instant her finger slips, a ghost of error, but she adjusts mid-flight, landing on the correct note as if it had been planned. A breathless pause stretches when the last chord fades. The audience sits frozen. In that silence, the open question hangs heavier than the chandeliers. Has she just changed their minds, or have they been waiting for her to fail? The first notes drift into the high ceiling like threads of light. They come out small, almost shy, yet each one lands, clear as crystal. Lena's back stays straight, her feet barely reaching the pedals, but she presses them with a steadiness that belies her size. Soft, damper work lets the melody bloom instead of blur. Within seconds, the hesitancy melts. The theme unfurls, full and sure, and a new shape enters the sound, her own heartbeat woven into Beethoven's. The camera of an unseen guest catches her fingers gliding over ivory and ebony, tiny hands building towers of sound that rise higher than the chandeliers. Every detail shows intent. A gentle press of the left pedal gives a shadow to the bass. A lift of the right creates space between phrases so the melody can breathe. Each dynamic change feels like a page turning in a secret diary. Without speaking, a word, she is telling a life story. Nights at the shelter, hunger wrapped in music, her grandmother's warmth beside a cracked piano. The ballroom begins to change. Forks lower, wine glasses stop mid-air. Servers carrying silver trays pause near. The doors, uncertain whether to move or stand still. Guests who moments ago whispered about the child now stare at her, eyes caught by something they cannot name. The hush deepens until it feels like the whole room is holding a single breath. On the edge of the crowd, Cynthia Davenport's smile starts to slip. The muscles around her eyes tighten as she realizes the audience is no longer looking at her. She adjusts her posture, folds her hands, then unfolds them again. The polite amusement she planned for the evening is turning into something she cannot control. Near the back, Dr. Marcus Hale leans forward. The glow from his phone lights the edge of his jaw as he records quietly, careful not to disturb the performance. He has spent decades listening to prodigies and concert pianists, yet something about this small girl's playing breaks through his practiced composure. He scribbles a note in the margin of his program. Impossible phrasing, child unheard of. A close shot of Lena's face reveals her eyes half closed, lashes trembling as she moves into a more difficult passage. Her right foot catches the pedal just before a chord would blur. The melody swells. Then, without warning, she drifts into a cadenza of her own making, a passage no sheet music could predict. Notes twist and rise like birds breaking free of a cage. The effect on the room is electric. A woman in a sequined dress whispers, "Who taught this child?" Another guest shakes his head slowly, jaw slack. Even the chandeliers seem to vibrate with the sound. Inside Lena's mind, the ballroom fades. She hears only Evelyn's voice from countless evenings in the shelter. Let the music breathe, Lena. Let it speak for you. That memory moves through, her fingers shaping each trill and leap. She is not just playing a variation now. She is rewriting it, as if her own story had been hidden inside the notes all along. Cynthia's forced smile falters again. Her eyes dart toward the piano, then to the guests who are now ignoring their meals. She grips her clutch bag until her knuckles whiten. The scene she staged to embarrass a hungry child is becoming a showcase for genius. Dr. Hale's recording catches the new cadenza in full. He adjusts the focus, realizing he is documenting something that could change a life. His pulse beats faster. He imagines headlines, scholarship offers, a future unrolling. Yet he stays silent, waiting for the right moment. Lena's hands move faster but not recklessly. She shapes each phrase with care, giving space for the quiet, then surging into sound again like waves returning to shore. Her small shoulders rise and fall as she breathes with the music, body and piano joined in a single story. Another whisper runs through the crowd. Where did she come from? It spreads like a current. No one answers. No one dares break the spell. The cadenza climbs to a delicate high note and hangs there, shimmering. Lena holds it a heartbeat longer than expected, then lets it fall back into Beethoven's theme, landing so softly that the audience leans in as if to hear a secret. For a moment she looks up. In the sea of faces she catches Dr. Hale's eyes. He nods almost imperceptibly, an anchor amid the silence. Then she returns to the keys, playing on. By now the music has filled every corner of the hall. Even the air seems thicker with it. The question unspoken but felt by all hangs heavier than the chandeliers. How did a child like this appear here? And what will happen when the last note fades? The last chord shivers into silence, a single thread of sound hanging above the marble like smoke. Lena holds her hands poised over the keys until the vibration dies. She lowers them slowly to her lap, breathing hard, eyes still half closed. No one moves. For a heartbeat the room feels weightless. Then a burst of clapping breaks the stillness. It spreads fast, sharp and bright, echoing off the chandeliers. Some guests leap to their feet, others stay frozen, hands half raised, faces stunned by what they have just witnessed. Lena rises from the bench, clutching her frayed backpack to her chest again. She gives a small bow, not a shy one but a measured gesture, like a professional finishing a concert. In that instant, she no longer looks like a hungry child. She looks like someone born for a stage. Cynthia Davenport pushes forward, silk gown rustling like wings. Her smile returns, wider than before, but her eyes show a flicker of panic. "That was unexpected," she says, voice smooth yet strained. "You play very well, dear." She reaches for Lena's shoulder as if to claim the moment back for herself. Lena steps sideways, avoiding the touch. "Thank you," she answers, quietly. She does not lower her gaze. From the back of the hall, a man stands, chair scraping against the marble. The spotlight catches the edge of his glasses. "My name is Dr. Marcus Hale," he says, voice carrying easily without a microphone. "I am a senior critic for the National Music Review and a visiting lecturer at Juilliard." Heads swivel toward him. Murmurs ripple through the guests. He points toward Lena with an open hand. "What you have just heard is not a stunt. It is extraordinary musicianship. This young lady has phrasing and technical command far beyond her years." He pauses. "I have rarely been so moved." Cynthia laughs lightly, but it comes out brittle. "Well, our gala does draw talent," she says. "It seems we have discovered a diamond in the rough." Lena sets the backpack on the piano lid and unzips it slowly. Out comes a slim folder, a phone mounted on a small clip, a folded press badge. "You have not discovered me," she says, voice calm but clear. "I came here to discover you." Gasps roll through the ballroom. Cameras flash. Someone drops a glass. "I am Lena Carter," she continues, "a pre-college student at Juilliard. For the past 6 months, I have been working on a documentary about prejudice and hidden assumptions in elite spaces. Tonight is part of that project." She gestures to the phone. "Hidden cameras have been recording since I walked into this room." A low wave of noise rises. Shock, embarrassment, anger, nervous laughter. Some guests cover their faces. Others whisper to each other, voices sharp with defensiveness. A man near the stage mutters, "We have been recorded?" "Yes," Lena replies, still steady. "Your reactions to a hungry child who asked to play were caught on film. So were your comments, your looks, your judgments. This is not only about me. It is about how we treat anyone we think does not belong." Dr. Hale steps closer, nodding. "I can confirm her credentials. I saw her perform at a community center last spring. She was brilliant then, and she is brilliant now. What you witnessed was a test of character, not just a performance." Cynthia's color drains. She clutches her clutch bag with both hands. "This is highly irregular," she says, voice thin. "You had no right." Lena lifts her chin. "You had no right to humiliate me for asking for food." The words cut through the murmurs like a blade. "I gave you a chance to show kindness. Instead, you gave me a challenge meant to shame me." A woman near the front covers her mouth. Another guest drops his eyes to the floor. The room, so recently filled with applause, now feels like a mirror turned on its viewers. Lena picks up the phone, taps the screen, and a small red light switches off. The footage will be edited into a documentary on social bias in high society. "Events," she says. "It will show both the music and the responses." She slides it back into her bag. Dr. Hale clears his throat. "I will gladly write the foreword for that documentary," he says. "It deserves to be seen." Cynthia tries one last smile, but it falters. "Perhaps we can discuss this privately," she murmurs. "No need to—" "No," Lena interrupts softly. "Everything important has already been said in front of everyone." She picks up her folder, holds it close, and walks past Cynthia toward the exit. The audience parts for her like water. Some reach out as if to stop her, then pull their hands back, unsure what to say. Whispers trail behind her. "Juilliard? Hidden camera? We have been tested." At the doorway, she pauses and looks back at the grand piano. For a second, her expression softens, as though hearing her grandmother's voice again. Then she steps through the door and disappears from the ballroom's glow, leaving a silence heavier than thunder. The elites stare at one another, their own reflections flickering in the mirrors that line the hall. They are no longer looking at a child on a stage. They are looking at themselves. The night does not end inside the ballroom. Before the guests even leave, phones buzz with alerts. Snippets of Lena's performance and her calm reveal race across social media. A 30-second clip of her saying, "You had no right to humiliate me for asking for food," is shared thousands of times before dawn. Hashtags trend. Commentators debate whether the gala showed the best or worst of high society. Morning headlines sharpen the story. Juilliard prodigy exposes prejudice at luxury gala, runs across the top of a major paper. Video panels replay the moment on breakfast shows. Some anchors praise Lena's courage. Others question the ethics of hidden cameras. Either way, everyone is watching. In the days that follow, donors cancel their pledges. Sponsors demand answers. The charity board calls an emergency meeting. Cynthia Davenport appears once on television with a carefully written statement about misunderstandings. But the footage of her forced smile beside the hungry girl keeps rolling on loop. Public opinion hardens. Within a week, she steps down as chairwoman. 6 months later, the screen fills with a new image. A winter morning in New York. Snow glints on the stone steps of Juilliard as Lena Carter climbs them with a battered backpack still slung over one shoulder. She has grown taller, her posture stronger. Inside, practice rooms glow with yellow light. She sits at a grand piano, eyes closed, fingers shaping scales into music that sounds like a future unfolding. A soft montage shows her life now. Morning. Classes, evening rehearsals, letters from young musicians thanking her for courage. Another shot reveals a poster for her Carnegie Hall debut. Beneath her name in small print, all proceeds to fund scholarships for underprivileged youth. News stories highlight the ripple effect. Several elite galas change their admission policies. A new foundation launches a program to bring classical music training to shelters and community centers. Dr. Marcus Hale publishes an essay calling it the Carter Effect, proof that talent exists everywhere if given a chance. The next scene cuts to a modest music shop in a quiet neighborhood. Cynthia Davenport, hair pulled back, tunes an old upright piano while a group of children wait for a free lesson. Her designer gowns are gone. She wears a simple cardigan and flats. A boy asks her to explain a chord, and for a moment she hesitates, then kneels and shows him gently. Humility has replaced her stage smile. Back at Carnegie Hall, Lena steps into the wings wearing a simple dark dress. She carries the same quiet dignity she had at the gala. But now it glows outward. In the front row sits Evelyn Carter, hands folded over a program. She wipes one tear from the corner of her eye as the lights dim. Lena walks to the concert grand. The audience rises in a soft wave of applause, even before she plays a note. She bows, sits, and places her fingers on the keys. A pause. The same stillness she learned as a child before striking the first note. She begins to play, not with a need to prove herself, but with the calm power of someone who has already told her truth. The music rises warm and full, no trace of bitterness. On a balcony, a camera catches her profile against the glow of the stage, a picture of a girl who has turned a night of humiliation into a movement. As the piece swells, the montage fades through scenes of scholarships being awarded, community, pianos repaired, children sitting at keyboards for the first time. Each note becomes a small door opening somewhere else. When the last chord lands, Evelyn rises to her feet, joined by hundreds of strangers who now know her granddaughter's name. Lena stands, bows once more, and smiles, not at the glory, but at the possibility of giving back. The screen lingers on her face as applause thunders. Even here, the story feels unfinished, because her music has begun to change things beyond this hall. The open question hangs in the air like the final vibration of a string. How many other hidden talents will step forward now that the world has seen what a child with a chance can do? The house lights dim until only the stage glows. Carnegie. Hall is filled to the balconies, the air holding that hush before something sacred begins. A single spotlight falls on Lena Carter as she steps out in a plain, dark blue dress that looks almost like the one her grandmother once sewed by hand. In her pocket is a small silver locket with Evelyn Carter's picture inside. She walks to the concert grand without hurry, Each step across the polished wood feels like a journey back through every night in a shelter, every cracked key she ever practiced on. She sits, places her hands on her lap for a moment, and looks out at the audience. In the first row, Dr. Marcus Hale inclines his head in quiet pride. Beside him, Evelyn Carter's eyes shine, a silent thank you traveling between them. Lena leans toward the microphone fixed near the piano and speaks softly, her voice carrying through the hall. "Talent belongs to everyone," she says. "Respect should too." A ripple of murmurs moves across the audience. Then stillness returns. She turns back to the keys. Her fingers hover above the opening note of the piece, the same note that had once opened a hungry child's plea in a luxury ballroom. But this time it is not a plea. It is a promise. She presses it, and the sound blooms, round and clear, floating upward like a bird released. The camera cuts to a slow montage, the documentary streaming worldwide, subtitles in different languages, children on 3 continents watching on phones and laptops, tiny hands reaching for keyboards. Headlines flash briefly. Faces of "Discrimination wins international award," then fade back into the hall. The last chord lingers. Lena keeps her hands on the keys just as she did that first night, letting the echo stretch into silence. The crowd rises as one, not only applauding a prodigy but acknowledging a lesson they will not forget. She lifts her eyes, smiles once at her grandmother, and bows. The screen fades to black on the image of a single vibrating string inside the piano. The same note, transformed, still ringing out into the world.